volunteer to break the ice? Right. You help me, because I have no questions. That's the problem. I have one. That will be the last one, yes.
Okay. First of all, I really appreciate and thank you your contributions today, our speech. In terms of smart meters, you present on energy efficiency, that is very important, but water resource management is an issue. And it is easy. Technology is available. Last year, European Commission, we had some calls on that direction. 3 years ago, we launched actually a program on water resource management. And what I understood also is the link between water and energy efficiency. So 10% of electricity in the United States is consumed by pumping water. That is a huge amount of energy. And what they are doing also is shifting the hours in order to get less costly. But I saw the peaks on traffic data. So this management of big data is used elsewhere, and we are making a push at the European Union now. There is actually a water platform that has handled that. But that is my question is water also considered when we saw smart cities? But I didn't listen today, but I think it's one issue. Another question is related to this smart regulation, smart legislation that was presented today by the first speaker. I think it's very important that we make some contributions on that direction. For instance, for cloud computing, we have together at the European Commission research and regulation, or it is discussion papers. There are some consultations. So is any move to get this intelligence, also the know-how to the decision makers? Actually, I was asked last year to trigger a discussion, what is a platform? So the senior management asked me, well, you talk about cloud computing platform, others they talk about platform on experimental future internet. My colleagues lawyers, they say, well, we have a platform on legislation, so that is also, we need to take some care when we are talking with the multidisciplinary, what is a platform? So we need to make a clear on that. Thank you.
You couldn't have an easier question. Can you help the European Commission to formulate some kind of platform, how to go about this?
Okay, I will not address the platform, but I will address the water and the waste. Yes, water management and waste management is definitely one of the areas in which ICT can bring a lot of efficiency. And again, there's a total difference between our area and many others. I was in a city somewhere in between Aveiro and Lisbon 2 weeks ago. They had a workshop on smart cities and so on. They invited me to go there. And the head of the water department of the city was very happy because they managed to reduce the waste of water to the level of 35%. Right? And they were happy with reaching 35%. Because in many cities, they say you can have 50% of waste of water, drinking water. We are not talking about waste. Yeah, we're talking about drinking water. That 50% just goes out on old pipes and all this stuff. So of course, again, with sensors and a lot of technologies, and this can bring, of course, efficiency into the system from the water viewpoint, but of course also from the energy one because of the pumps and everything else. So definitely there's an area in which you can use a lot of things and apply it.
So not only you can save energy, you can save water,
yes,
which should be maybe the first thing to do. So at least you're not wasting it. Maybe you ship it to Sahara or something like that. So you might kill the wells over there because your water will be cheaper than the water of the wells.
When you are, just to finish, when you are talking about numbers of 30, 40, 50 dB, percent, sorry, then of course bringing it down to 10, it's huge numbers. We are talking about millions of euros in here.
But there is one point, just having mentioned this in the context of water, there was this EU debate to to get the water control out of the public operation. And as far as I didn't follow complete, but my learning was there is most likely governmental investment necessary. So the cities have to invest to implement anything on water. And if there is no one who is able to finance this through a certain mechanism, so there's a supplier offering the money and gets permanent payment back for this in a certain way, credit type of investment, then it's hard to get with cities, get these kind of investments agreed, because they have to budget this and very often cannot increase their budget over a long time. And if the balance is not guaranteed, so the loss is not immediately paying back, then you have really a problem to get it done. Technically, no problem, but commercially, a disaster.
Okay, so if we tell them that Europe does not have oil, but they have water, so most probably water will be more expensive than oil. So you have a business case for this one. Quite easily. I guess Nestlé is selling water around the world, so this is an irony. Yeah. Yes, please.
No, I just want to I don't want to monopolize, but to bring you another area related with water, which is gardens. Many of the stuff these days is still someone that 8 o'clock in the morning goes there, opens a tap, and then he looks at the watch, and at 5 he closes whatever. Yeah? So, and it's again, we are talking about millions of euros. I know the case for Lisbon, and it's amazing. If you start applying minor ICT stuff, I would not even say a full developed one, just minor sensor and actuator stuff, you immediately you start talking about millions of euros, 1-2 millions of euros.
I can just only reconfirm and underline what the previous speakers said, and especially Luis. We have made a thorough analysis of the potential of water savings. And really, I mean, there's a lot of, I was really shocked when I saw the numbers that how much water is being wasted and what the savings can potentially be done, both in the residential and that's called, there is 3 levels of loops where you can have the savings at the residential level, at the small city level, and at the very big area level. And what you need is actually not so much. I mean, you need some ICT for communications, you need some sensors for the pumps. Exactly what you have to steer is to steer the pumps. And then you attain both the energy savings and the water savings. We have even tried twice for European funding for that, but it didn't work. But the case is still there. I mean, it's not solved, and there is a lot of money potentially there to be.
I mean, the Romans have invented the aqueducts, open air, so even the sun could help itself in the water as well. And we still have water. So in Italy,
about water is an interesting example. Of course, in Europe we have the problem to don't waste so much water. Last year I was in Brazil, and in Brazil they have the problem to use properly the water to irrigate huge amounts of territories for agricultural purposes. So what is interesting in the speech is that today, using properly big data, we can manage properly this phenomenon, but big data is giving a lot of impulse to predictive analysis. So we can use data to predict what will happen, and not just to react, but to plan differently. It's nothing new, because the business intelligence staff already provide these, but now we are able to manage heterogeneous different data from meteo or territory, from water, something else. So we have this opportunity. It's real that we must fund this initiative, because they are not to solve the problem today, and probably politics and the economical crisis are focused on today and not on tomorrow, but it's a different topic. Now we have the opportunities. Predictive analysis is one of the ways of the data use.
So can you formulate the call, and then you plan that call into this?
I have 2 questions, if you don't mind.
That's 5. That's 5 questions.
The first one is an observation based on the intervention from Luis, who quite well stressed the fact that for M2M communication on smart city issues, we have a huge problem of interoperability. And I'm curious to see how you, Deutsche Telekom, you handle the issue of interoperability when you have hundreds of vendors, each one with its own little technology for transmission, for all kinds. How do you handle that? That's my first question. And then the question to Radoslav. I'm also curious because you essentially knock off a few base stations depending on whether traffic is there or not. But when you knock off a base station, you essentially force mobile handsets to go a longer distance to reach another base station. Hence, you increase electromagnetic radiation. I know Luis loves this story. But so it's not only about an issue of energy reduction or smog reduction, because you actually create a hell of a lot more radiation at the level of the handset. So those.
Let me start with probably a combination to the platform question. When I mentioned this KiwiCon. KiwiCon is a platform we announced 2 years ago, I think, or 1.5 years ago, with the interest to have the connected home. The thinking behind was that Deutsche Telekom is anyway in the homes with IPTV and these kind of products. So why not combining the mobile capability and the IPTV? Sorry, I'm not good speaking today.
A bit of water will help.
Yeah, but you have to manage a community of supplier. No one will accept a proprietary Deutsche Telekom standard just for a market. And that is what's currently happening, that we fight against the world to combine competing people to cooperate with us, because they want to keep their differentiation in the market. It's the normal case is not that the people selling water control systems to private people have no competitor and are interested in saving water. They want to make money with their products, and they do not want to have the competition have exactly the same product. And as a consequence of this, it takes a long time, or we invest a lot in partnering and in this kind of, you get rebranded cloud or rebrandable cloud functions, and you have differentiation space, at least with the big players in this market. And I think there is no other way, because if you wait for standardization, then the big players in the market supplying private households or supplying cities will not really bring money into the product.
They take over the standardization.
That's another point.
Sure.
No, it was about the platform question, probably, because I think that Deutsche Telekom is a private company. I mentioned the channel for distribution. I think that nowadays the market is more for ecosystem. And ecosystem means cooperation and competition, because there are different players, are large enterprises, SMEs. So a platform is what make an ecosystem sustainable, because give the basis to collect the results, give the governance, a sort of guidance to the ecosystem, because things doesn't happens by themselves, and give the critical mass for communication. In open source, OW2 give a platform. If you want to have your solution sustainable in the time, you contribute to the community and work as an ecosystem in the community. It's an ecosystem of individuals, communities, and also many enterprises. But also in the future internet, I see that there is a core tools and the rise of the platforms to sustain the initiative over time. So we are not in the United States, we are not in Silicon Valley, but we don't want to attract large enterprise, large dominators. We can build some big ecosystem to work together. It's not about giving specific rules, but work to create a collaboration of ecosystem to make things happen. That's what I mean. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
To summarize it, because it's what you're both saying, it's if you promote that solution and they accept the open source attitude, then they will be successful. So there is no need to wait for the standardization, because you can create a de facto standard as well, which you do anyway. So we should not be naive in this thing, because they want to sell their stuff and they do that. And through time, you will see whether that thing is going to sustain and to become the solution, and most probably will be adopted as the solution. We're all using Microsoft, so it's the standard anyway. So what can you do about it? So the market decides, or you decide on the market as well. Any?
Just getting back on the question here, we have taken that into account, and it's not an issue in our approach. So maybe I will clarify that in a little bit more detail, in a couple of sentences. We have basically two directions that we take. And the first conservative approach is that we do not switch whole base stations off. We always keep base stations on. We just switch capacity off, redundant capacity off. And the operators would never, in the first step, would never, ever in life allow to switch the whole base station off, because then they're unsure if you can bring it up on time, or if it does not spoil the network. So in our conservative approach that we apply is that we look, and this is especially applicable to the cities, where you have some TRXs or RRUs, and you keep the coverage all the time, you just reduce the redundant capacity, so you don't have that problem with the terminals. But you can, of course, very well imagine that even more savings can be achieved when you switch some base stations completely off, yeah? That's clear. But then you also, we look into that problem, because we use in our approach the best server maps, and we know which, where they, more or less where the people are, where the terminals are, which base stations they are connected to, and we use that information in our algorithms in the optimization, that we switch then these base stations off that correspond to the lowered traffic that are not connected to the majority of the users. And we have thought about that, yeah.
So I mean, the follow-up question on this one is that, for instance, the safety networks are run separately, like Tetra and so on. And why can't we use the normal commercial networks by buying that the government buys certain capacity which is allocated to them in the time of an incident or something like this? So you'll have a kind of, so I'm opening the debate, which is a big one, because the other guys are monopolizing the Tetra networks. I think we have a real issue with Tetra, that's for sure, because it's voice only, and the world has moved from voice for the last 20 years. And we're still in an old age infrastructure, totally fragmented. The police cannot speak to the first responders, and the first responder cannot speak to the ambulance. But when they come to the scene of the incident, they can't talk to each other. We know that in Luxembourg, because we do trials. We get the French, the Belgians, and the Germans into Luxembourg, and they can't use Tetra, so they use GSM to talk to each other. Why can't they use GSM and directly from the operators that have reliable networks?
That's a sensitive issue that you raised. We had a project, European project on that ended in security running, ended last year. It was a preparatory action on the emergency crisis management, and by the combination of really utilizing the commercial networks based on LTE. The outcome out of that was you don't need Tetra at all. You can definitely serve all the needs with LTE. It's not a problem technically, but it appears to be a problem on different levels.
This is where the US is ahead of us, because they are now using LTE.
There is economical and technical analysis at hand. It's publicly available. It was a health project running in security. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, there's no question about that.
So that's the issue you raised for Lisbon and so on. This is a very important topic to elevate the safety word from voice only into everything like anybody else. So a kid today is better armed than a first responder who's coming with this clunky stuff which is from It's like robots running around, you know, to save
But this is
lives.
business. This clunky stuff is produced by big companies.
But emergency networks have strict requirements on some things that you need
Well, I would like
to
to meet
ensure.
these guys that are making these strict
Like
requirements.
the
because
setup call needs to be less than 1 second and all these kind of
you
things.
can do that with LTE.
No, I'm
problem.
not saying you can't. I'm saying you have these requirements that you need to make sure that if you want to use a commercial network, they need to be there in case of an emergency.
Well, this is
the
a myth, as a matter of fact, because the other guys are not smarter than the commercial one. No, this is, some people have sold themselves as the top service providers for security, and this is really false. Absolute false.
What's false, sorry?
Well, they think, you know, they will have a dedicated network, you know, to give you a better service than the commercial.
No, I'm not discussing this. I'm just
Yes.
talking about the technical requirements.
I'm talking about the same thing as well. Huh?
Is that? Can you ensure if there is a crisis that everyone picks up the phone, that you have channels for the guys?
Or you can negotiate with the commercial guys, you get even cheaper price. As a matter of fact, you get also.
No, it's not a matter of
video.
price. It's a matter of if the network is congested, if you have the channels for the emergency guys. That's the issue.
Well, no, you can do that as well.
No, okay, I'm not saying you can't. I mean, in LTE with the PCSF functionality, you can do all of this stuff. Of course.
Let me add one thought, which is the thought I would have if I would work in an infrastructure supplying company and would supply operators. Then I would define my pricing structure in a way that I can sell my technology a second time to the government with the interest to have this short setup time and something like this. So with the likelihood, even if the technology with delay times and IT process times would be able to get priority calls or priorities connection set up within the consumer network, I would try to make it so awful expensive to my customers, the network operators, that they at the end will not choose this option, but motivate someone else to establish a second network, as we had in Germany with the government, with
But
railways.
they spent $4 billion to set up a Tetra network.
Yeah, but that is
different topic.
yeah, but my
Yes,
thinking
and why is
behind
even the topic?
the mechanics is exactly like I try to describe it. It's another commercial-driven decision making. It's not the technical driving it. And afterwards, if the ecosystem, the market has accepted that things are like this, then everyone is fine.
So
We have to be careful because we, as paying taxes, we have to pay at the end for this. But
As a matter of fact, the US model is now ahead of Europe, and they have it low cost, LTE across the country, no issue. So I don't see a problem. I think we have too much legislation in this part of the world, working for the benefit of some, and we are paying for it twice as well.
Yeah.
Any other question? We've got another two.
Just recovering here one concept on interoperability. For smart cities to work, they need smartphones, and today we have 2, 3 dominant OS systems. How does this impact or blocks some of the ideas? I mean, it's cost effective to develop 3 times the same application and to adapt it. It's one question. The second one is for the optimization case. I mean, I'm here representing a mobile operator, and we also switch capacity at night when everybody is sleeping. But I think that the next step will be a kind of a concept with the best, always best connected philosophy, but now applied to, I mean, to energy and radiation. Meaning, if I can serve a user with Wi-Fi, I really would serve it with Wi-Fi rather than 2G, 3G, and recently with 4G. So I think we are increasing the problem by adding a new G to the question. But the scenario is the difficulty we have to migrate traffic from, I mean, the old cellular networks to Wi-Fi. I think this would be a challenge because I think most of the operators are already shutting down non-used capacity. I think the interoperability between Wi-Fi is really the next step challenge. Probably 5G would be this real interoperability between Wi-Fi and 4G and 3G. Thank you.
Want to address?
Yeah, I have a lot of things heard where I can say. The first thing was the operating system. I think that was the first question in the smartphones. I personally love that there is still competition. If there would be only one operating system, then with a likelihood we had a monopoly situation. And as it was with the PCs, that does not bring the best for the customer and as well for the suppliers. Another thing to mention in this context is that in machine-to-machine, an awful lot of other wireless technologies are used already. So the world is not a standard network thing. And we have a lot of good business with T-Mobile US in the US just because of the fact that AT&T switches their machine-to-machine business to LTE with a much higher cost of the components, the technical components. I've lost the other point. So if someone wants, or you want to repeat the other question,
Well, to the other point, I can I can only agree with you, and that's another step to the offloading to Wi-Fi, which brings another dimension as it lies completely outside of the 3GPP standards. But I think it's a wider. I mean, there is more space into that. I mean, you can also utilize the different 3GPP technologies, 2G, 3G, and 4G, and then have optimization cross technologies. Yeah, offload between the different technologies, not only outside of the 3GPP network. So there is a lot of space. I believe there is a lot of space, and as I understood, it was more of a comment than a question. So I can only agree with you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as board member of VP since the beginning, we have most of the operators are deploying just release 7, but 8 and 9 and so on, they had Wi-Fi in there. So it's only a question of doing it. So the standard exists. So it's only a question of doing that. So you had a question?
Okay, good. I have this hay fever as well, so sorry about the soft voice. Additional topic on the water. I think I have to mention this. 2 years ago, among the European big companies, we did a global value chain analysis on what are the key factors that we have to bear in mind in order to think about where production of the future will happen. And the water is one of the key factors. So together with energy, with IPR issues, with human labor costs and all of those, we actually came to the conclusion in that scenario that one of the key reasons to relocate manufacturing away from Asia, from India, and from other areas back to Europe or the United States, the water as a scarce resource is one of the key factors there. So please bear that in mind when you think about European competitiveness in a longer term.
So just to finish, because we've got just 2 minutes, very short. What's your vision in 5 years from now? How M2M, IoT, smart cities, and so on, depending on your expertise, do you see that? But very short, no a big monologue. Then you deserve a coffee, yeah?
Yeah, my feeling is probably in 15 years it will be present everywhere. You will have standardized connection to the internet.
We want to see some of the things happening now in the next 5 years.
In the 5 years, we will still be in the city-to-city project mode. So there will be something, and something good. I visited Malaga in Spain a while ago. They were already ahead of some things, but it will last another 5 years until it monetizes or until it's present.
Yes.
I can only agree with these. I think in the next 5 years, what we'll see is the continuous growth of pilots in sectors, in transport in the city, in assisted living in the other, and so on. I think that's realistic to see the increase in these areas for the next 5 years. For 15 years, then we'll witness all this integration of the stuff, for sure.
Okay, so we'll have...
Because it brings enormous economies of scales and saves a lot of money to everyone.
Because we have the smart city, that's a composition of different technologies needed and the different sectors and the heterogeneous environment in a wide sense. I see a lot of opportunities there for SMEs. really nice target for SMEs to go on this market and deliver some services and solutions.
Wonderful.
I mentioned the nexus of forces in my speech, connecting cloud, mobile, social, and big data. I see that cloud is growing faster and is moving to the application layer, no more to the infrastructure level, and we will find some really powerful solution to provide the base for big data. Big data, we are starting now. In a big data conference, I said that the data scientist will be the sexy skill for the future, because we are starting now to understand how to use big data. And big data will fuel all these activities, because now we have the potential, we are in the prototype phase, but providing predictive analysis to all of these business will be the new activity of the next 5 years.
We will have some kind of digital oil, and then we need digital refineries with your tools, and then we start digging again, and so on and so forth. So future internet will still stay for the next 5 years. We will not take out future. A round of applause. Thank you.